What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders Awakened. I am on my alt account from my speedrun to Massacre mode, and we are gonna take on our very first Massacre Survival. Now, Massacre is no different than any other tier. One of the easiest ways to get through it is when you first unlock Massacre, you want to play through the first two maps, Deeper Well and then the Ancient Mines. Now, what this is going to do is it is going to unlock the Ancient Mines for you in Massacre Survival. Now, this is without a doubt one of the easiest maps to take on in Survival, and it's a go-to first spot for me on every single difficulty. So when you're first breaking into a tier, get to Ancient Mines, get over to Survival. Now, although you're going to get tons and tons of upgrades from doing this, you're going to get a lot of gear you can't use yet. But you'll have that gear ready to go when it gets to you, but more importantly, it's going to upgrade your gear enough to make either burning through the rest of the Massacre campaign or getting going on Rifted mode much, much easier. So just getting any sort of Massacre survival gear is definitely what you want to shoot for. So let's hop on into the Ancient Mines and get things started. And here we are. Now, since we just went through Deeper Well and then Ancient Mines, of course, I am in all Nightmare mode gear. So I've got nothing at all that's even upgraded. Everything is unupgraded gear from Nightmare Survival. Taking a look at the stats, this is my Wisps. We got Fortify. I went mainly into Power, of course. Then we have got our Monk for auras, as we are going to use some auras here. We're going to be focusing mainly on Ensnare auras. So with that in mind, I've got everything dumped into range as far as making sure each individual item I have has range as a passive. So I've got range as the main stats. I've got the points spread out a little bit just to even them out some. However, I did focus on maximizing range there. Over to the EV. The EV is going to be doing buff beams and is also going to be throwing down some shock beams. Now, one thing about shock beams is they burn really, really fast. So having a little bit of fort is definitely a good thing. However, since we're focusing mainly on buff beams, we are full on power. So we've got all of our points dumped directly into power. And then we're going to be playing actively on our Rogue. I've got that Nightmare weapon, actually an early Nightmare weapon. I'm hoping to replace it this run. And this is the only piece of gear that I have that's upgraded. So if you're going to upgrade anything, upgrade your weapon. Now, this, of course, has got me sitting on 4 billion gold now, which isn't a ton, but it is going to be enough to throw some upgrades on my Massacre gear that I get, hopefully, on this run right here. And then on the Rogue, I'm just full on DPS. So I dumped everything directly into attack to get that attack up just as high as I can. Now, to get things started, of course, we don't have any mana to work with. But additionally, there's really no super large challenge here with Wave 1. Only 10 enemies, so not a huge, huge problem. What I'm going to do is kind of set up for the future. And I'm going to use my buff beam to buff my wall and to buff these wisps. So I want to build accordingly here. We're going to put the roots up a little bit far forward, and then we're just going to throw wisps in directly behind and in a position where I'm going to be able to hit those with buff beams. Now, since this is just wave 1, it's only wave 1. Just burn through the mobs. There's not many of them. So not really a huge ordeal. The mobs aren't going to be tough, and there's not going to be a ton of them. So Wave 1 is just all about putting your DPS here to work, and we are going to get that done, no doubt. Let's see, we got 6 bads left. Are we going to have a helicopter ogre? Remember, you are going to have helicopter ogres going now, so it looks like not in Wave 1, though. So I don't think we're going to have a helicopter ogre to worry about here in the first wave, unless it comes super late. We will have to see here, though. Not getting a ton of mana, but, you know, we're going to be able to slowly get the map built out. Yeah, nothing of real challenge here at all. Now, I mentioned the helicopter ogres. It's kind of your choice. You can put in something to help with the copter ogres. I am actually not going to. I'm going to put everything in just for the damage on the lanes, and I'm going to double dip on those copters as well. Now, let's go ahead and get those buff beams in place. That way I know everything else I want to build here. So I'm going to make sure to get the tree, and then I'm going to stretch it as far as I can to stay at 3 DU there. I'm going to do the same thing over here on these lanes. Here, of course, you could go with a larger buff beam, move these back, and even double dip, but I'm trying to avoid as much cleave damage as I can. So instead of going with a large buff beam across, I'm just going to go with 2 little shorties here in the back, and we're going to get, just as long as we can get a couple of 3DU buff beams down. Now that leaves me 223 left, so we can go ahead and throw some more wisps into the deal. Let's get a few of them over here, and then let's get yet another over here. Now, the smarter way to build this would actually be to put the wisps double or triple stacked as far away from the wall as possible. And let's see, let's go ahead and just let it fly here. Hopefully we can get it all built out by the end of the next wave. Now remember, it's your first survival in a new tier. We all want to win the match. However, winning the match is not always going to be the realistic option. So make sure your goal here is to just survive as long as you can. The longer you survive, the more XP you're going to get and the better loot you're going to get. So just go as long as you can. My initial goal with breaking into a new tier on my first survival is normally to try to make it to wave 15 every time. Now, of course, I want to win the map, and if I even get into the 20s, I'm usually quite stoked. But my base goal is just going to be making it to wave 15, and that's going to give me some nice gear upgrades. And then it's going to give me the pet for that particular map. Now, of course, on this map, the pet is that Mistamine rock pet, which is not ideal for DPS with that slow movement speed. Alright, so we've got another 350 left. Let's just go ahead and swap our wisps here into a little bit smarter placement. So if we sell these guys off, and then let's put them all the way at the back of the lane, as far away from the roots as possible, because the roots are going to take a little cleave damage. We will go, say, with 4 of them right here, and then that's going to allow us to do something over here as well. So let's see, let's drop both of these wisps, and then go with some side-by-side action, as that's just the smarter thing to do. Let's go 2 like this. We'll go 2 like this, and that will get us through yet another wave. Now remember, with the sirens coming in here, the easiest thing to do is going to be ignore the sirens. If you ignore the sirens, all you have to do is watch the lane behind them. What I mean by that is when the sirens come out, look and see what element that siren has a debuff for. If we take a look at this siren here, that looks like a fire siren. Yep, you can see the little fire logo on the health bar here. And that what that means is as this siren goes back to the lane, or after it does its little spin, if you look at that Sharkin, every mob that comes in contact or into that siren's aura range is going to pick up that debuff. So it's going to pick up some, not immunity, but a 90% damage resistance, in that case, to fire damage. So you want to be aware of that as we get the map built out. Like right now, all we have in is physical damage, and then our weapon is lightning damage. So if it was a physical siren, then we know that these wisps are just not going to get the job done, and I need to make sure to spray down the enemies on that particular lane. Now let's see, we've got 36 DU left. Where do we want to go here? I think we're going to get our ensnare R's in next. With the ensnares, I'm just going to make sure that I get them on the buff beam. So get them out there as far as I can, where they are going to pick up the buff beam. This side will be a lot easier, of course, as we just don't have any options. We're just going to split these lanes with just one ensnare. Okay, now I said I wanted to get some shock beams down. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, shock beams are going to be a last resort, and it's going to be for when those poison sirens come out. So if a poison siren comes out, of course, it's going to give enemies that resistance to poison damage, which is going to put a big hurt on my CC. So right at the end of the lane, right as you get close to the wall, I'm just going to put a little 2DU shock beam on each lane right at the wall. And that's going to give me a little last resort crowd control. And we're just going to get it in right there up close. So let's do the same thing here. Let's go with a little 2DU shock there, a 2DU shock here. Now, obviously, you can put these out as far as you want. The further you put them out, the more enemies are going to be hitting them, and the more of a kind of a repair nightmare they're going to become, as they do just burn super, super fast. Now we've got lots of DU left. Let's go with a couple more wisps. Let's go one more on each lane right here. Let's see, we got 4 there already. We've got 16 DU left. I tell you what, let's just do this. Let's really, really load it up on this area since it's double dipping. And we'll go with 8 total wisps, so we'll go 4 on each lane right here. And that is going to leave us 8 DU left, which is a pretty nice chunk of DU. What do we want to do with 8? Well, we can go with some reflect beams. That's going to be 3, and then that's going to give us 5 DU left over. I think we will do this then. Let's go ahead and put something in up front for the copper ogres, even though I wasn't planning on it. Let's go ahead and do it with that leftover 5 DU. And we're going to put our roots all the way back in the back here where we can hide them. I don't want ogres throwing at them, basically. And then we're going to put the wisp just smack in the middle. Now, this wisp will help out quite a bit with any copter ogre action that comes through. In fact, let's just put it back a little as well. We'll stick it like right there. Now that leaves me the 3 DU, and I think the obvious choice here is to go with 3 reflect beams, as range mobs will be throwing at our roots, and that is for sure. So let's go ahead and just get a 1 DU reflect beam on each lane, and now the build is complete. So all we have left to do is upgrades. For upgrade priorities, I'm going to upgrade the wisps and the buff beam evenly. Now, normally, of course, you would always upgrade your buff beam first. However, the wisp get such a huge amount of value from range upgrades that it's well worth going into wisps evenly with the buff beams. So we're going to throw a couple of upgrades around there and just let it fly. So that's the base of the build I'm going to use. Let's go ahead and move on forward a few waves and see how the map is running. And here we are in wave number 10. Now, I've been kind of following a strong side, weak side philosophy, where this side over here, I'm putting the bulk of the upgrades in. This will be my strong side, and then I'm just paying attention more to the other side. Now, although we do have multiple elements in on a lane, it is important to note that we've only got one main flavor of DPS here as far as our defenses go, and that is physical damage with these wisps. Now that means you definitely have to be on the lookout for any physical sirens that come out. You're going to be able to identify a physical siren because if you look on their health bar, they're not going to have an element listed next to it. So hopefully we get one here in this wave that we can use as an example. In the meantime, I'm putting in a little bit of work up front on the copter ogres and just kind of assisting wherever need be. Here we go. This is a physical siren. Now you see there's no element next to that siren's health bar. That means that that is a physical resist siren. So as it goes back up through the lane, that siren is going to make all of these enemies 90% resistant to any physical damage that they pass. So with that in mind, we're going to want to make sure to burn all the mobs and assist on that lane because, of course, our wisps are doing physical damage, so they're not going to be dishing out the pain that they normally are. So once the lane is clear behind the siren, you can just kind of go on to whatever you're doing, as that is the main thing you need to watch out for. Is just be on the lookout for physical immune sirens. Another dead giveaway is you see these wisps are hitting for 30,000, where they are on other lanes hitting for 300,000. So that's showing me that that particular siren that just left on that lane is a physical siren as well. So if you don't actually see the siren, you can look at your damage amounts and kind of just tell for yourself that there's something funny going on over there, and it is the mechanic of the siren. So wave 10 is still going pretty smooth. Everything is going well. I'm going to continue to do that strong side, weak side until my strong side is fully upgraded, and then I will focus more on upgrades over here. So that one wisp out by itself to help the copter ogres isn't really doing a ton, but it is helping. So anytime a copter ogre gets grounded directly on top over that overpass up there, that wisp is killing it. So it is helping out, even though it's not doing a ton, just one wisp but no buff beam. It's still enough of a factor where I feel like it's worth throwing it up there just for a little additional upfront damage. So we've got everything spent that we can. Let's go ahead and bounce on forward once again to a future wave, and let's see how the build's holding up. And here we are in the final wave, wave 25. Now, things got super rough last wave. I got multiple physical sirens all at the same time, and it was straight ugly, but managed to get through it. Now, a few important things to note here. Anytime enemies make it to your shock beams, you're either going to lose your shock beams or they're going to need repair. Shock beams just burn super fast. You see here it's got 57 max health. However, it attacks twice per second, so every time it attacks, it's losing one of those HP. So it burns really quick. So keep an eye on your shock beams. They will save the day for you, but they are going to be a bit of maintenance, or require a bit of maintenance. A few other important things to note. You just have to watch the sirens. If you get physical sirens, you've got to be active DPSing on that lane. Now, every other bit of effort I've got going into the copter ogres, and a couple of helpful hints, particularly if you're playing the rogue with the copter ogres, is don't use noxious and arcing at the same time. They both do damage, however, they are both crowd control as well. So throw up arcing first, get the stun in. When that stun wears off, have a noxious device ready to go on the copter ogres right after, and then they'll still be CC'd, as they will be slowed as they're coming in. So let's see if we can't muscle through wave 25. Like I said, wave 24 got real ugly, and hopefully I'm going to be able to make it. So I'm starting off each wave just focusing on the copter ogres. I'm watching for the sirens. What I'm looking for is physical immune sirens. I got one physical immune siren and one electric. So this is going to be my physical immune lane right here. This lane is going to need some help. Now, I'm going to try to keep this lane thinned out as best as possible until that siren leaves, and then you are going to have to manually burn down this lane full of enemies. Now, I see I got an ogre coming on the other lane. I'm even going to ignore the ogre until I get these enemies burned out, because all of my wisps on this lane are only doing 10% damage. The siren left a 90% physical damage debuff on those enemies. Now, it looks like I'm going to lose my wisp up top, and I lost that tree. No huge loss there, but I do see my shock beams are getting wrecked, my trees are getting wrecked, and I'm just going to need to throw some repairs around. So taking a look at the sirens again, we got a poison immune and a physical, so we know that this lane now is going to need the attention, and I've got a lot of enemies on it, so we need to make sure we clear that side out. Trying to keep those shock beams full, though. Keep them repaired up, as they are going to put in work for you, but you're going to have to keep them healed. So let's see if we can't get these enemies cleared. We know this lane is going to be a problem. So let's get it. I think we may have lucked out. We don't have a ton of heavy mobs on that lane. So looking good so far. All I lost was that upfront wisp from those copter ogres landing right there. Kind of sketchy, but remember I'm in insane mode gear. This is all level 83 insane mode gear, but you see I did get some nice levels off this. Survival mode is really a go-to for the XP grind. You're double dipping. You're getting lots of gold, you're getting lots of XP, and you're getting lots and lots of loot to look at. And really, you can't ask for anything more. So I almost got all the way to 86 from just barely into 83 at the start of the map. Let's take a look at our shiny new giraffe. It's a level 90 giraffe, but it's a nice one, and we will have it ready to go as soon as we get to level 90. Now, one of the downsides here is you're going to get a ton of loot you can't use yet. There's going to be so much level 90 gear sitting that you can't use. And the general rule here, don't save all this stuff. Don't save this piece just because it's godly. If it's a level 90, as it's just blocking up your inventory and it doesn't have the stats on it. So now you're at a point where you can really get picky, and an item like this, I don't have 2 good passives on it. I don't have all 4 builder stats on it. So there is just no reason for me to keep that item around. So I picked up, I want to say close to 400 items on this run. It'll be over 400 after this last wave gets looted. But don't keep the stuff around that's just not good. This piece, it's got 3 stats on it. It's got 2 good passives, but it's only got 3 of the regular stats. So no reason to keep it around at all. So don't clog your inventory up, as you are going to have to do quite a few of these survival runs to get yourself to level 90 and be able to equip that loot. But hopefully that helps everyone out with breaking into Massacre mode. You get to this point, and it is a game changer, as you're going to have some big stat increases. You're going to be able to blaze through and unlock every Massacre campaign map without any issue whatsoever. And then that is going to allow you to swap over to Rifted mode for some fusion gear farming and getting started in Rifted. But thank you all once again, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.